What's going on, guys? It's Sam, and today I'm going to show you how to export videos for YouTube, Instagram, and the big screen. In this video, you'll learn about exporting for YouTube, Instagram, feature films, and all the settings that go into making high-quality videos.
That's good.
Okay guys, so we're back inside of Media Encoder, and I want to talk about the best export settings for YouTube. So we're in Media Encoder, we can also do this in Premiere, but it brings up the same window, right? So I have my videos queued in Media Encoder, and instead of doing Control or Command M to bring up the export settings window in Premiere, I'm just gonna click on the preset within Media Encoder. So within the export settings, we are going to dive in deeper as to what you need for YouTube, okay? So you absolutely want H.264. It's the lowest file size, it's the most compressed while retaining the highest quality. Don't want to use any other format. It's always going to be bigger for the quality. So if you still want to retain the best quality for YouTube, which is 1080p or 4K or whatever you like, the best way to pack it into a file size that doesn't take up your entire hard drive is through H.264. Okay, so we're going to create a custom preset. It doesn't matter which one we choose, we're just going to make some changes. And we can also save the preset later by clicking this button right here. So the changes we want to make really aren't any, because I made the sequence settings perfect for YouTube. So that's why match source works out really great. So right here we got 1920 by 1080 on the height. And then we got the frame rate at 23976. Now, if you have your sequence settings as 23976, then you're also going to want your export to be 23976. Same goes for any frame rate you choose. And your frame rate of choice will always depend on the frame rate of the video file itself. Now, I know I recorded her on my camera at 23976 frames per second. If you do it in 60, I would highly suggest making your sequence settings 60 frames per second and export your video at 60 frames per second. Otherwise, you'll see frames going all wonky, and you don't want that. And you can test it out yourself, but if you keep everything consistent, then your video will look fantastic. Okay, and then the field order as progressive. Now, we don't want the upper level or the lower level first, because what the field order does is when the video's playing, basically think about it as every single pixel is a light that turns on and off, and it scans. Okay, and if it goes upper first, then it starts up top. If it goes lower first, it starts at bottom. And you don't want either of that, because on the internet, you'll just start seeing lines go through your video, and it's weird. So let's do progressive, because it does them both at the same time, and it doesn't create any weird lines. So just always do progressive field order. You won't have to deal with any issues there. And then aspect ratio is 1.0. That means that every pixel stays the same. If I change that to like widescreen 1.2 something, you know, it messes everything up. So let's do 1.0. That's exactly what we want. Our video looks great. Okay, so if we hit match source, bam, everything's back. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you before exporting is I want to make sure your bitrate settings are correct. If you make this bitrate super high, so it's at 10 megabits per second, and that's like the quality of your video. So this is basically high quality or low quality. 10 is high quality, okay? Anything 10 or higher is super high. So if you go way up, I'm at 50 bitrate, then I just times 6, like 6 times bigger file size by doing that, bringing it up to 50. So let's bring it down to 10. But I would actually recommend 8 for YouTube, because that makes the file size even smaller, but you still retain that beautiful quality. Anything lower than 8 starts to feel a little grainy, so don't go lower than 8 unless you're making a proxy. Proxy should be that 0.19, whatever the lowest it can go. Okay, now if you want to start exporting for Instagram or Facebook, and let's say you want to make those square videos, right? You don't want just like a wide screen, because on the phone, if you see a wide video, it's kind of small. It doesn't take up much mobile screen real estate. So if you want to take up more mobile screen real estate, you want to have that square video, or even the long form, which is like 1350 in height. But we'll just go with the square, and let's see what we can do in our basic video settings. So if I uncheck this and I try to make this a square by turning off the link, let's make this 1080, okay? So what it does is it becomes a square, but there's 2 black lines above. So to fix that, we would cancel our export. Let's just go back into Premiere. And what we'd do is we'd actually change our sequence settings instead. So we go in here, go to our sequence settings, okay? And then we change our frame size to 1080. Actually, we'll just do 1920 by 1920. Okay. And what that does, it says changes preview file format, whatever, just hit okay. And now we got a square. And what we can do is we can select all of the video files, okay? So if we just kind of select everything here and we drag it up just one video layer, okay, we can go in here and let's take that white color matte, okay, we have that in the GFX, and put it behind. And what we got now is we can scale this up, and bam, we got a white background. And we can add text up top by hitting the T key and just kind of like popping this in here. Hello, I'm Jen. You know, that's an all white, but you guys hopefully get the gist of this. So this is how you can export in Instagram. And then with this, we can do Control or Command M on the timeline, and then we can pull up the export, and it's set to match source, which is 1920 by 1920. So it's a square format, easy to export onto Instagram. And of course, don't just put hello, I'm Jen there. Maybe do captions on the bottom and then like a nice little clickbaity title for people to watch up top. Okay, so last, I want to show you once I undo all this stuff, because that's not what we're doing for her today. I want to go back into Media Encoder and let's open up this window, and let's say we're working on a movie. Now, I was working on a movie this year. It got paused because of COVID-19, but that's okay. I'm making these tutorials for you guys, sharing everything that I learned from that experience and all of my video marketing prior, all of that experience as well. So let's move forward, but let's talk about how we would export for a movie, okay? So for exporting for a movie, I wouldn't recommend H.264 because it still compresses a little more than QuickTime. So what I would recommend is we would go to QuickTime and we would make a .mlv, okay? So let's go to QuickTime, let's do ProRes 444, because that is lossless. It's essentially lossless. It's one of the best codecs you could possibly use, and it's what makes movies on the big screen so crisp. And so we'll scroll down here, we got the quality at 100, can't even change that. And then we go down here, we got the depth, we can do 16 BPC, just max out everything, right? So what this will do, it doesn't even give us an estimated file size, but the video will be roughly a gig, maybe 2 gigs. So if you imagine a 90-minute movie, multiply this video by about 90, or more like 45. So that would be 45 gigs if we exported it in the highest res possible, which is what they do in the movies. That's what they show. That's what they show in the theater. So yeah, that's why I would recommend even 1080p. Most movies are 1080p as well. They don't need to be 4K or 8K or anything like that. The reason why movies are shown in 4K or 8K is because it just gives a more refined pixel quality, and that's mostly because of the camera. It's not because of how you exported it. You always want to export videos based off of the settings that you recorded through the camera. So if I recorded this video in 8K, then I would want to export it in 8K, or I can downscale to 1080p to make it a smaller file size. But we don't do that in the movies. We go big. Okay, I hope that makes sense for you guys. When I'm talking go big, I'm talking like, you know, see the movie from space, right? Where I'm at. Like, that's how I want to watch movies. I want to go to the satellites and be able to watch my favorite movie on Earth. Like, that would be sick. Just get like an awesome projector. I hope that all makes sense, guys. We went over how to export for YouTube, Instagram, and the big screen. Yeah, we are not going to export just yet. I want to explain a little more settings that you can tweak to make everything the way you want it to be, okay? Because this is all about your future creations. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, so this tutorial is from a full course on Adobe Premiere Pro. Go to ParEdits.com/Premiere Pro or click the link in the description down below.